One of the things I love about Granada is that, at least in theory, you can go urban sketching all year round. And so today I thought I'd share with you my urban sketching kit. I think it will be helpful for those of you who are just getting started, and also to work out, you know, what's essential and what's like something that's nice to have. If we haven't met before, hi, I'm Emma Bolton. I'm an artist, urban sketcher and writer based in Granada. All right, let's get into the video. For urban sketching, especially with watercolor, I prefer to use a sketchbook with 100% cotton paper. This is cold pressed, but because I use fine liners, I prefer one that doesn't have so much texture. I do have a totally different sketchbook and palette that I use for gouache. This video is going to be focused on watercolor, so if that's something that you're interested in, let me know in the comments and I can do a separate video about like what changes in my urban sketching or travel sketching kit if I'm using gouache rather than watercolor. Finally, in terms of the sketchbook, I always bring with me a piece of just cellulose sort of draft watercolor paper. So if I was going to paint this page, for example, which was an urban sketch where I just decided to draw that day, I'd paint with this where I have the paper here, so I can paint and also test colors. And just to be clear, none of the products in this video are sponsored. They're just things that I like, or more often they're what was available at my local art store when I would needed something new, because I really prefer to shop locally where I can. So this is my normal watercolor palette. I do have a much smaller palette I use for travel sketching. And if you're interested in how travel and urban sketching differ, mostly I just take way less stuff and much smaller, like a much smaller palette, for example, with fewer colors on it when I'm travel sketching. I've got a whole article about it, including a travel sketching kit checklist that you can download for free on my blog, Sketches from Granada. So I'm going to link that in the comments below, and you can go in and download that if that's something that would be useful for you. Also, let me know if you're interested, for example, in like the colors that I just think are essential for sketching Granada, because I find it so interesting how the places that we're in really change like our choice of color. Also, you know, the weather affects our mood so much. Color's really the thing that brought me into painting. So we've got our sketchbook, our watercolor palette, and now we need something to actually paint with. So this is my brush roll. I love it. It was my gift to myself to celebrate the launch of the 2025 Granada Sketching Retreat last year. Before that, honestly, when I went, I would either use water brushes for urban sketching because they come with lids, or I would actually just like fold a piece of paper over the brush head and tape it with masking tape here so that the brushes wouldn't get damaged in my bag. So in terms of brushes, I almost always take the same ones. So I have a synthetic flat brush just for wetting the page. I have two round brushes with fine tips, and these are what I spend most of the time using to paint. The larger brush for backgrounds and the smaller brush for details. Finally, these aren't strictly necessary, they're more like nice to haves, but I have just a small flat brush that I like using for bricks or you know, greenery in the foreground to get different textures. And I also have a rigger brush or a script liner brush just to get those sort of long varied lines. But honestly, if I was really trying to minimize what I was packing, I think just having a large round brush and a small round brush for details is fine, because you can use this to wet the paper, especially if you're working in like an A5 sketchbook, which I am most of the time on location. I'm just starting out on YouTube, so if you like this video, please share it with a friend, like and subscribe. Normally before I paint, I do like to do a sketch with a 2B pencil. So I have a pencil, a soft eraser so I don't damage the paper, and a pencil sharpener. And then in terms of waterproof fine liners, I prefer to use sepia to black, because just like eyeliner, I just feel like it's a little bit softer and more my vibe. So I have 0.1, 0.5 millimeters and a brush pen for doing larger, thicker lines. And then I also like to have a gray fine liner, which again, this is not strictly necessary, but I just like using it sometimes if I want to draw lines in the background without drawing too much attention to them. I also really like to take a handful, and I genuinely mean a handful, of colored pencils with me when I'm sketching on location. You can probably tell what my favorite colors are by the colors that are and are not here. I mostly prefer to use the luminance pencils because they have really soft nibs and they go really well on top of watercolor, but sometimes I also really like to use a colored pencil to sketch with at the beginning, like rather than a graphite pencil, I'll sketch with a colored pencil, and I do have some harder pencils that I tend to use for that. So I have a little separate pencil case for these because these aren't part of my main kit. They're really like optional extras. Finally, let's talk miscellaneous items that can be really helpful for sketching. I do have one of these foldable cups, which I really like now because your paintbrushes lie really nicely on top. But honestly, for several years, I just took an old plastic peanut butter jar with a lid and filled that up. Very importantly, if you're not using water brushes, is to have a water bottle filled with water so that you can actually paint. Also, rather than a paper towel, I prefer just to take a microfiber cloth. You can see I've used this one a bunch of times, but I just think it's a bit more environmentally friendly, and also it means that when I put everything in my pencil case to take home after I finish sketching, when I have wet brushes and stuff, this tends to soak up any excess moisture. So this is an old gym bag that I was given, and that's where I tend to keep all of these miscellaneous items. Now I'm going to show you my favorite part of my urban sketching kit, which is actually my backpack slash stool. This was actually given to me by my aunt when she visited me from Australia, and I'm pretty sure it's for the beach. I really like it because this part is a backpack, but then also I can sit on top. So there you have it. That's my urban sketching kit. I pretty much take the same stuff every time I go out. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you all being here, and I'll see you in the next one. In the meantime, I'm off to do some more urban sketching.